Big Lez's League, an all rugby league experience.
Welcome back to Big Lez's League, an all rugby league experience. Make sure if you're watching on the YouTube, you go ahead and you click the subscribe button and also follow us on all of our socials, which will be in the description section below. Welcome back to another episode of The Drawing Board. We're going to be going through our SuperCoach and NRL Fantasy changes going into the upcoming round 19. We'll go through round 18 first for both SuperCoach and Fantasy. First of all, and probably the best. We usually save the best for last. That's usually the saying, you save the best for last. But we're going to go through the best first and give myself a little bit of a momentum boost before we obviously get into Fantasy, which usually isn't the best. So SuperCoach, we'll start off with that. SuperCoach, 1,282. Was the final score. It's probably our best score. I think it is our best score for SuperCoach since we started playing a year and a half ago. Look, love that. For me, I think it's a great thing to happen, especially during this period, during the buy round and all the buy rounds over the next few weeks. It is a score that I'm very happy to get. Obviously, working around with a few different trades, trying new things. Brought James Tedesco in for the past 2 weeks. He has been a godsend. Dominic Young's also in the side at the moment. He's been killing it. Blaze Talangi had a big week as well for SuperCoach. So it was great to have those guys getting some massive scores, which contributed to this monster score as well. But with a blessing comes a curse. Obviously, we've got a lot of buys this week. We are playing with 12 men currently for SuperCoach and NRL Fantasy, which is going to throw a bit of a spanner in the works, but we'll have to wait and see how we go. As for NRL Fantasy, our final score was 788. Again, it's a pretty decent score for NRL Fantasy. It's not the best, but it is quite decent. 788 there. For NRL Fantasy, our best player was Josh Curran with a score of 76, which is pretty good. Had a big game off the bench for the Dogs in what was a very tight win against the Wars. But yeah, great score for Josh Curran against his old side. Great to see. In terms of the trading block, now this is where it gets interesting. In terms of the trading block going into round 19 for SuperCoach, we are going to be trading out Rocco Berry. We've been trying to do this for a while, but I've had to move around my side and get some more points in. Obviously, that has worked with the past score of 1,282. So, look, we are just going to get the guys out we need to get out now, and that is Rocco Berry. The first one for Will Price. Will Price, still relatively cheap, got 60 or over 60 in his past 2 scores. I imagine has a pretty decent break even going into this round as well. I am definitely snapping him up. I think he was still around 380k. So great price for Will Price. The price is right for Will Price, some would say. So make sure you go ahead and grab him while you can. I've got Will Price in my team for Rocco Berry, and then I've traded out Sam Hughes, who's been really interesting over the past few weeks. He's had some decent scores around the 40s, 50s, and then it's had some pretty poor ones in the 20s. And I just think that ceiling is too low and the floor is definitely too low for Sam Hughes. So I've traded him out, and I brought in a guy that I think is going to really tear over the next few weeks. They don't have the bye until the second last round of the main competition. For Noah Pole, I've brought into my side. They don't have a bye for the next 6 weeks. So bringing him in for Noah Pole for Sam Hughes. He's had some great scores over the past few weeks. He plays huge minutes for the West Tigers. I am definitely having him in my side. As for NRL Fantasy, in terms of my trades, it's not that I wanted to trade this player out. It's because I needed to trade this player out. I had too many halves in my side. Had to get him out while I could. Isaiah Katoa. Unfortunate, I know. I've loved having him in my team. I think he was one of the first players that we traded in as well this season. But Isaiah Katoa comes out. I'd trade in Cody Walker. The Rabbitohs do not have any more buys for the rest of the year, which is perfect. I don't have to worry about trading these guys out or putting them on the bench. These guys don't have buys for the rest of the year. I am taking Cody Walker, and I've pretty much given a little hint as to who the next guy would be, but I don't think you guys will get it. I've traded out Kulakefu Finefuiaki. He was on my bench last week. I've traded him out, and I brought in an outside back, Jacob Gagai. I've just needed a little bit more depth in the outside backs on my bench, and Jacob Gagai does that for me, but he'll be starting this week with a host of players out. for my fantasy side, and I'll show you the side in a second. We'll go through the SuperCoach side first. You can see that there are a few players out with the bye. James Tedesco, Terrell May, Nafa'u White, all out. A lot of my starting guys out of this side as well. Jaden Campbell comes into the halves. Dylan Brown at the moment is my captain, but we might captain Blaze Talungi or Jaden Campbell. I'm just waiting on if Jaden Campbell's playing or not. If Jaden Campbell isn't playing, well, that just fucks me. But if he is playing, he could be the captain. If Blaze Talungi, by the end of the week, I decide that he should be my captain, I probably might give him a go there with the captain score. Obviously got 70, I think 80 the week before too. So he's coming off the back of some pretty decent scores. And look, Dylan Brown, he'll be going back into the 7, you'd imagine, for Parramatta this week. Look, it'll be an interesting one. You know, he does usually get a pretty decent score when he goes into that number 7 jersey. But yeah, look, we'll have to wait and see how I'm feeling. Blaze Talungi is on the wing, but he does score a host of tries, and they love going down that right. So, Blaze Talungi maybe. The also a bit of my thinking here is that Dylan Brown loves the left-hand side too, so play might get directed to the other side of the field, which means the Blaze Talungi doesn't get as much ball as what we saw him get in the last 2 weeks. So, we'll have to wait and see how my thinking goes there. Other potential captains include, Jaden Campbell or Blaze Talungi for me, really, or Dylan Brown. Those are the 3 that I'm considering. Tedesco obviously out. He's usually my captain. Carl Lawton on the bench. He's the only player that I have as a playable reserve this week. So that's going to be very interesting. Lucky I, as I said, not even 13 players here. I have got you minus the 3 from the starting side. So, 11 players for SuperCoach. Fun times. And then 12 players here for NRL Fantasy. We'll talk about NRL Fantasy now in terms of the changes for this week. Kiraz is unplayable. He's obviously got the bye. Dylan Brown is my vice captain. Hamole Olakawatu, I'm going as captain. I think he's in for a big week, getting snubbed from Origin. I think that he'll have a massive, massive week for Manly. So I'm captaining him this week. My front row rotation, Paddy Carrigan won't play. Obviously, he's been picked for Origin. But I've got Tom Hazelton and Maxi Plath there in the front row rotation. I've got Josh Kerr coming into the back row. Carl Lawton goes into the number 9 with Reid Marnie out this week with the bye. Cody Walker comes into the number 7. He could be a potential vice captain or captain option. We'll have to wait and see. Bostock comes back into the back line as well. I imagine he'll play. He was only out for the 11-day stand down, so I think he'll be back in time. Might not be, but I'm pretty sure he is. And then Jacob Gagai obviously comes in on the wing as well. Those are the changes for NRL Fantasy. Make sure if you haven't already to click here on the subscribe button. We've had plenty of Origin content come out. We've reacted to the Origin sides yesterday. If you haven't seen that, make sure you go ahead and click on that. Also, our Origin Changes podcast blew up. So we've got some great content on here. It's sort of starting to get the viewership that it should be. So make sure you go ahead and become a part of the Big Lez's League community that we're building here on the YouTube, on the Instagram, the TikTok, all of the socials. They are linked below in the description. So make sure you get a hold of those, and we'll see you guys in the next one.